Okay, so in the round, anybody go for it.
So you mentioned quantitative analysts.
Yep.
So I really don't know what that is, but I've talked to one guy before who sounded very interesting. What is it about that you didn't want to do, and why did you choose to do something else, and what's different between the two jobs?
Yeah, so I looked at a few quantitative analyst roles, and they do quite vary. So you have the ones that are building the models from scratch, you have the ones that model validate, and you also have the ones that just print out reports. The reason why I didn't go down that route is because I wanted a more front-facing role, shall we say. I wanted to meet external clients. I wanted to be part of the trading floor. So I wanted more dynamic, shall we say.
I'm going to ask you both a general question, actually, which is if you could give advice to your perhaps not very much younger selves, is there something you would have done differently before embarking on the course you followed, or are you very happy with that? Or are there perhaps pointers you'd give out to the audience in general?
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, I was talking earlier about postdocing and some of the negatives I mentioned. I mean, what I maybe didn't shout about so much is that I really do love the job. And that's why I'm there, fundamentally. So, some of the projects we were on, we were flying in that research aircraft I was showing at 100 feet above the Saharan desert, doing measurements. And I don't know how many people can claim they've done that, but I bet there's not very many, and I'm one of them. And, I thought that's amazing. And in some ways, I think postdocs and maybe PhD students at the same time have got this kind of feeling that they're never quite good enough. There's always another postdoc that's a bit better than them, or they're not really prepared for the real world. So I think if it was me, I would say just get on with it. And, actually, fundamentally, you're doing all right. Just get on with following what you want to do and don't stress too much about what you can or can't do, because fundamentally there's a lot that I probably could have done that I didn't look at because I felt underqualified.
Susan?
It's too soon.
I was going to say, I was thinking as I asked the question, I thought asking you what you've done differently a year ago perhaps isn't the best approach. Somebody else wants to come in? Is that Try speaking, actually.
Okay. Phil, how much of your time is split between the things that you're sort of researching because that's like your department's research and projects you'd be interested in pursuing?
Yeah, okay. So it's interesting, actually, because I think that as time's gotten on, postdocs are becoming maybe less and less flexible. People like to have this idea that as an academic you get to do what you want. I'm currently funded on an EU grant or on a large project that involves us at Leeds, people at Reading, people at the Met Office, people at KIT, people at Paris, various institutions across Europe. And that whole project has got a list of deliverables and deliverable dates to Brussels that have to be met. So fundamentally, I kind of see it as it's probably very similar to a lot of other people working in industry. I have things that I have to get done by a certain date, and they are deliverables that need to be achieved. So, but on the flip side, I have got a little list of kind of Friday afternoon projects that I kind of tinker around with when I feel like I've had enough of doing what I'm supposed to be doing, essentially. And, I'll spend a Friday afternoon, maybe 1 in 3, where I just think, forget it today, I'm going to have a play with this, or a few train journeys here and there. But actually, most of the stuff that I do is directed, because fundamentally, we've got to get done what needs to get done, and the more you get done, and the more science you get, and the more papers you get, the more likely you are to get the next postdoc, I guess. So, there were quite a few questions this morning about, is the flexibility in industry as much as it is in academia? And I think that actually it probably is, because I don't think, although there is some flexibility in academia, I don't think it's as much as people like to think it is. Until that point when you get to be an academic, when you've got that tenure in some ways, but then you've got to apply for the funding to get it. You know, the amount of your pet project that you really love, but if it doesn't get funded, you don't have anyone to work on it. So fundamentally, you can only do what you get funded to do. Just like in industry, in the real world, you can only do what you get paid to do. So.
I saw some other hands, at least a gentleman over there. Well, I think we've got time for 1 or 2 questions. I'll wait until the other group comes in and then we can hand over to Graham.
Susan, you mentioned reading up on financial mathematics, those sorts of things, but what sort of, let's say, mathematical tools do you actually use in the work you do now?
Yeah, it's a funny question because I was talking about this with Adam earlier. So I essentially used none. So that financial mathematics actually helped me get an interview and pass my interviews. So my daily role I don't look at any equations. I barely look at any maths. But in order to get my role, I had to derive equations. I had to jump through hoops, right, to get my role. So there you are.
I think, wasn't there an expression around the time of the financial crash? The problem was the CEOs didn't understand what the people working for them were doing.
Yeah.
And so actually having someone who's been able to do it at some point is probably a huge advantage. So, I did see another hand at least, actually. There's still time for a couple more until the other group joins us. So I'm sure you can ask more flippant questions if you feel that way as well.
So I think there's a lot of obvious transferable skills from people who've done sort of observational astronomy or cosmology or planetary science and things. But people who have done theoretical physics often find it quite hard to think of specific transferable skills. Did you have any that you thought, as a theoretical physicist, in my background, is going to be really useful for the a finance company?
I thought that my programming skills would be used. I have not programmed since I finished my PhD. I thought I would use VBA at least. Haven't touched VBA. Other skills, yeah, writing reports. I do. I write a significant amount of reports for the group. I mean, like we've just finished Q2. And now's the reporting season, right? I've got to write my reports to the various boards that we have. So reporting and researching, like I said, with economic data. I write up our economic data for the EMEA region every morning, and I send it out to St. Louis so they get a quick overview of what's happening in the European market. So yeah.
So there you go. There are. On that note, I think we've had 2 again very interesting and inspiring speakers this afternoon. So I think we should just thank Phil and Sue for their time once again. Thank you.